Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. We've been telling you that it's Carnival Week and we want to make sure that you stay as healthy as possible. And to do so, we're going to get you as prepared as possible this morning inside your Spotlight on Now.
And the Ministry of Health is on a drive to keep you healthy, not just for Carnival, but for Carnival and beyond. And this morning, we're going to be talking about tips and ways that you can stay healthy, especially as it relates to water and keeping you hydrated. And so joining us this morning on Zoom is Dr. Sandi Arthur, who is a primary care physician too at the Southwest Regional Health Authority. Dr. Arthur, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Hi, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for having me this morning.
Now, Dr. Arthur, before we get into tips, of course, side effects, that kind of thing, tell us why the ministry is on this drive to ensure that we stay healthy for Carnival and beyond.
Staying healthy for Carnival and beyond is very important because we know that if you're not well, you're not going to be able to perform, you're not going to be able to produce, you're not going to be able to be productive. So it's important that you can be equipped with tools in how to stay healthy as you go through this period of time. And one of the things we are looking at is hydration. We're into the dry season as well. Persons will be going longer distances than they normally would have. Some persons who are not even accustomed to exercising will be doing something very much like that. And therefore, hydrating is a critical aspect at this time.
Yeah.
Our bodies are about 2/3 water, so hydration is key.
Yeah. Now, when we say hydration, we're talking about water and not alcohol, right? Because some people might think, well, alcohol is a liquid.
Yes.
So is it that it's going to be something different? I mean, can you also explain to people exactly why we're talking about water as opposed to any other sorts of liquid?
Sure. I'm so happy you brought that up, Kimberly. So water, and when we say water, we don't mean sugar-sweetened beverages. We don't mean the water that has been infused with other things that also contain sugar. I'm not going to call any brands, but we do have some waters like that around. And we're definitely not talking about alcohol. We're talking about the clear stuff that comes from the pipe, or you can get from a bottle that says water. It has in no sugars or any additives. That is very key. Now, there's something called infused water where we can infuse water with like fruits and vegetables. That's okay. But when we say water, we mean water. And the average adult needs about 8 to 10 glasses per day,
right,
to consider adequate water intake. And sometimes persons will watch us as healthcare providers and say, well, 8 to 10 glasses, I can't manage that. But you can think about dividing it up as you go through your day. So when you first get up in the morning, you have a glass of water. You're going to have your breakfast or whatever meal you're going to have a glass of water afterwards. And then when you're about to have another meal or your snack, you have a glass of water. And if you're doing that throughout the day, you will get to 8 to 10 glasses, because generally most persons should have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks in between. So you'll definitely get to your 10 glasses that way.
Yeah. Is it possible as well to substitute while you're eating lunch? So, for example, I know some people who are on the healthy track, if they're having a salad, they'll also have that water. So is there also a way to fit in that water, maybe switch out that sugary drink or maybe coffee as well? Is it possible for you to substitute it with water as well to ensure that you're getting enough?
Most definitely. I mean, it takes some commitment and dedication and discipline initially when you're not accustomed to it. But the more you practice it, the more it becomes more applicable to you. It's also important for persons to consume a lot of water, especially when they have certain kind of medical conditions and so on. For example, persons who may have things like a raised blood sugar or diabetes. Water also helps to maintain and help with the control of that blood sugar, in addition to the other things that you may have to do or already doing. So it has multiple benefits for those who are consuming.
Yeah. Is there such a thing, Dr. Arthur, as having too much water?
Now, in some instances, and it depends on the person. So in healthcare, we would always tell you things have to be individualized. So there are some persons with some conditions where we may even have to limit their water intake because they're not able to manage even the normal quantities of water.
Yeah.
But generally, so long as your kidneys are working well, so long as your heart is working well, you would be basically okay if you're consuming regular amounts of water.
Yeah. And of course, when we're thinking about the temperature of the water, is there a preference as it relates to hot versus cold, warm versus cold? Which is the best one we should drink? And does it depend on, for example, the sort of exercise we're doing, the sort of activity that we're doing? Does that then also play into whether it's hot, cold, etc.?
I think at the end of the day, it's your personal preference. I find in my experience, though, that it's a little easier to drink a bit more water at a time when it is just below room temperature. So you have it at a regular temperature. It's not too cold, it's not too warm. You're able to drink more. When something is really cold, you tend to be limited in how much you can consume at any one go. So I think it's a personal preference, but and you'll find that mid ground for yourself
Yeah.
as
Dr.
you get
Arthur, I
into it.
want to I want to bust some myths because I know that people have been using water as well in terms of burning fat, right? And so sometimes they say maybe mix some coffee with some warm water, and if you do that for a long period of time with some lemon, you can be able to burn the fat. I mean, is there any sort of credibility to what some people say, or what is the kind of things they use as a sort of shortcut to burn the fat?
No, no, what I would say, if you're drinking water and you're consistent with it and you're decreasing on your sugar sweetened beverages, you will cut off some fat. Why? Because oftentimes we in the Caribbean, especially, I can talk about us, we consume way more sugar than we need to in any one day. So the average man needs about 8 teaspoons of added sugar. So we're not talking about your regular food. We're talking about all those sugar sweetened beverages and the other things we consume that contain sugar. The
Yeah.
average woman is about 6 teaspoons and the child is 4 teaspoons. When we overuse the amount that our bodies actually need to function, then what our body does is that it actually stores it as fat. So, therefore, if you are replacing something that can potentially cause you to store fat, you will lose weight.
Yeah. Well, I like that you mentioned some of the side effects. And so can we get a bit more into that? Like some of the side effects to overusing water, or even some of the side effects if we don't drink enough water?
Okay, so when you don't drink enough water, you become dehydrated. When you become dehydrated, some persons can have some very mild symptoms, and that's usually when we're triggered to actually drink water. So the first one is thirst for a lot of persons, or you might find that your saliva feels a little less and is a little thicker, and your mouth feels kind of funny, so you drink water automatically. But you're not really supposed to wait to get dehydrated to actually hydrate. But nevertheless, we oftentimes do that. Some persons become a little dizzy or feel lightheaded, and some people even get a headache. Some persons may feel very tired. Um, and the thing is that because our body has to function, water helps to maintain that balance. So you'll find that if you're not using enough water, you find that your urine starts to change a color. It may even develop a smell, and then you start to think, well, maybe something is wrong with me. In very severe cases, persons can get things like kidney damage. Some persons can even, this is like, especially when we have very hot climates and temperatures and we're really not hydrating. Some persons may even get some form of heat injury, whether that is like cramps. So you find that sometimes hear people talking about they're getting cramps, and worst case scenario, they get like heat stroke or heat exhaustion.
Mm.
So we can really do a lot of detriment to our bodies when we're not adequately hydrated.
Yeah. Now that detriment to our bodies, is there a way to go back? So for example, if you have a problem with your kidneys, is it that it's going to go back to how it used to be? Is it that it's going to be a permanent sort of damage that you're doing to your body? I mean, how do we know the level of damage that we're causing by not drinking enough water?
Okay, so it depends. So there are different types of kidney injury you can have. But in this instance, if it is an acute kidney injury and we find the cause of it, it can be reversed. Usually it's reversible if it is picked up early and the correction is done.
Yeah.
Sometimes if the correction is not done in time, you may have some permanent damage. But once we can pick up acute causes early and treat them, then we can reverse.
Yeah.
Unlike when persons have what we call chronic kidney disease, which is not reversible, commonly caused by things like hypertension and diabetes. You'll hear us drop those words in there often because they are responsible for a lot of things and a lot of complications that we see in persons.
Yeah, I know we mentioned it briefly at the top, Dr. Arthur, but if we can go back a bit, we mentioned the sort of water infused veggies that people can eat. So in addition to drinking water, how else can you get that sort of hydration in your bodies?
Okay, so sometimes you can use certain types of fruits have a higher water content. So you can actually use things like melon, cucumber, and so on. They have a little more water. I know for some persons, the challenge with drinking water is that it has no flavor. So you would realize you have some bottles that come with a little container on the inside where you can actually put things in. So if you want to infuse your water with things like you put a few pieces of melon there, or you put a few pieces of cucumber, some persons might even put a few pieces of orange. So you can have a flavored water that has not been made flavorful by additives like sugar, sweetened stuff, and artificial flavoring.
Nice. Okay, so we're hearing that, of course, the fruits and that sort of thing is very helpful. I mean, Dr. Arthur, anything else we should know about staying hydrated? I mean, this is Carnival week. People are going right down till the end. So how can we ensure that we are staying hydrated so that we can come back out to work Ash Wednesday ready for the week again?
Well, you just need to drink that water. If you are consuming alcohol, be very cautious. Ensure that you're still getting your water intake in there as well. Don't think about it as a chore. Just think about it as part of the beat, part of the sweat, part of this jam that you're going to and have a fun and safe time. We
Nice.
want you to beat the heat and make water your first choice.
Yes. Well, we hope that people are listening when you said make it your first choice. But Dr. Arthur, let me thank you so much for sharing, tips on how we can stay hydrated. Of course, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Now Morning Show. And all the best for the Carnival season, depending on whatever you choose to do. So have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Thank you for having me.
And that was Dr. Sandi Arthur, of course, a primary care physician too at the Southwest Regional Health Authority, just sharing tips on how we can stay hydrated for Carnival and beyond. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.